know.
Oh, RJ.
I know. RJ and her robots. So it goes. All right, let's get this show on the road because we promised 25 minutes and we're already 4 or 5 minutes into this. I am Tom Ruich. That's Dean Isaacs. We're going to share with you a little bit more about ourselves after we get through the 25 minutes. And for all of you who joined who are here with us live, please put into the chat your LinkedIn information, because if others want to connect with you, I think that's a great way to make connections. So this is not designed as a networking event, but we're going to go ahead and build a little bit of networking into this thing. So I am sharing my screen. I hope everybody can see the beautiful 5 in 25 logo and the screen. 5 tips to write irresistible subject lines and headlines, different but similar, so prospects tune in and read on. So let us dive in. 5 quick tips with a lot of sub tips. Dean and I are going to plow through this. Get ready for the fire hose. Here we go. Tip number 1, spark readers' curiosity. The animation is not on. What we're going to do, Dean, why don't you go ahead and start plowing through some of these, or let's talk for a moment about what we're talking about here. The idea is that if a headline or a subject line makes somebody think, what does that mean? Or tell me more, huh? Words like how and why are often really good words to spark curiosity. How something happened? Well, how did it happen? Why something happened? Well, why did it happen? Those are all great ways to draw readers into written copy or to a headline. So, Dean, why don't you run down some of these that we've shared? Just let's go down this list.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and aligning that curiosity with a known need, pain point, or deficit in your ideal client's world, right? If you're dealing with fitness enthusiasts and you talk about, I don't know, leads and sales in business, that curiosity doesn't align. So make sure you're driving around curiosity that aligns with a known need in the marketplace that you're serving. So having said all that, MIT device cuts power bills by 65%.
What MIT device would that be, Dean? I want to hear about that MIT device.
Exactly.
There it is.
Right, that's the whole hook, right? Of course, everybody's probably heard the next one, how to win friends and influence people. That never gets old. It's always relevant. And people still want to know how, right? Even though our marketplaces change and demographics change and generations evolve, they want to know how. So that's a really good one as well. How my client overcame a dreaded business crushing disease. I think, Tom, that's one of yours, right?
That is one of mine. Thank you, Dean.
Yeah. So that's a great one. So it's like, there's a lot to that, because if you think about us as business owners, we want to know if we got sick, what goes on in the business? What happens? How did that person overcome that issue in their world? So what's really important, I think, in that particular headline is how my client, this person that we know, it sounds like a real human that we can relate to. It's not some generic, business owner, right? We tend to use that a lot in our messaging, us, the larger group of us, right? Business owner or entrepreneur.
And by the way, there's a slide later on, a tip later on, and this one could be on that slide as well. And I'll make reference to it. I don't think we put it on that slide. So we'll see. Yep. So why simple words sell more than big ones? That's one that I did as well. That had great open rates. Why do simple words sell more than big ones? I tell you why in the email. Open the darn thing. Read on. How this change to your email subject line can increase open rates. Oh, typo. Sorry about that. Open rates by 57%. That, Dean, is a headline that you wrote, correct?
It is. And it kind of ties back to the whole purpose of today's topic, right? Is getting that increased reaction. So people want to know how. But this is also, it sparks curiosity, but it's also specific to email subject lines, right? That's
Yep.
why I think it can cause a good reaction. Go ahead,
Yep.
Tom.
What never to test in your ads. That's by the great Ben Settle, one of the great daily email writers, and um, he's written some good ones. One of his most famous subject lines that I don't think made it here was something to the effect of, "I was thinking about you in the shower." And that's kind of an irresistible subject line, but we didn't include that here. And then finally, why haven't TV owners been told these facts? That is a great headline by the magnificent Eugene Schwartz, whom I often cite in my work. That one was the headline of a sales letter that I think sold a newfangled kind of TV. I forget what the details were on that ad, but really effective. Curiosity, tap the curiosity. Don't give it away, but imply something is coming, and all of these headlines do that in a great way. Let's go to number 2. Maybe let's go to number 2. Now we'll go to number 2 and play from the current slide. Can everybody still see it, or did I lose the share?
You lost the share.
All right, I'm going back. All right. Promise and imply a benefit. Funny thing about this one, do you recognize the first headline? MIT device cuts power bills by 65%. Well, not only is that a curiosity-inducing headline, but there is a clearly, explicitly stated benefit: cut power bills. I want to cut my power bill. I'm going to open that email. So it wouldn't be a curiosity-inducing headline if structured differently, but cut power bills. Yeah, I want to cut my power bill. How about the next one, Dean?
Yeah, so why simple words sell more than big ones? So obviously the sell more is the implied benefit here, right? That's the promise. If you adjust the language you use using simple words, you can sell more stuff. Or how the heck do I do that, right?
Yeah,
So
and that subject line, again, that was one I wrote, and that subject line could have been why you should use simple words, not big ones.
right.
That's not as good as why simple words benefit sell more than big ones.
Yes.
So a lot of these tips are not standalone things. Combine these tips and you make your headlines even more powerful. How about this one, Dean? Go ahead.
At last, scientists discover a new way to look younger, right? Who doesn't want to know how to do that in just 17 days? So again, we've got an implied benefit, looking younger, but we're also using that time frame too, which is like, I'm going to look younger faster. That's like an extended benefit as well, right? It doesn't take me 17 months, it's 17 days.
We're going to dive into that, into the 17 days thing.
Yep.
This headline may reappear on another slide. And there again, 3 out of 4 of these headlines were on the previous slide because they induce curiosity. Here, how to win friends and influence people. I mean, what better benefit is that? Win more friends, influence people. That's why that book sold gazillions of copies.
Yep.
Next slide, number 3. Borrow celebrity and authority.
Yeah.
Love this one. Borrow celebrity and authority. Look, MIT device cuts power bills by 65%. Not this device or new device or device, but it's an MIT device. And MIT, we're talking about proof, validation, borrowing authority. And so, well, let's dive into the next one. Go ahead.
So Ben Franklin's, is it Wiley way to turn
Wiley
way to turn foe to friends. So obviously Ben Franklin has said a lot of wise things over time. And I'll also add real quickly, I really like this approach, this tip, the borrowing celebrity authority, because I think many of us have somebody in a similar industry or business or world that we look up to, right? They've made it. They've peaked the mountaintop. And then if you see any content from them or about them, it immediately draws us in, right? It's aspirational, and we can leverage that in our messaging too. So if you've got authorities in your industry or in your world that you know your community looks up to, shoot, use that, leverage that authority and that celebrity to capture attention. So
yeah, I think that's especially right. In whatever your niche may be, there may be some celebrity who is only known in that niche, but if your audience knows that person, that draws them in and can be a really, really powerful approach. So here's very similar to the first one. This is that Gary Halbert headline from just the previous slide. At last, scientists discover new way to look younger in just 17 days. So just that word is so critical. Scientists, proven, researched, and so it doesn't even have to be a known celebrity or a known institution. It can be done as subtly as that. And the difference between saying scientists discover a new way to look younger versus a new way to look younger, or here's a new way to look younger, significantly different outcomes in those headlines and subject lines. And then this one.
Yeah, so I'm sure everybody's heard of this guy, Joe Rogan, right? So Joe Rogan grew his podcast 190 million downloads per month. Here's how, right? Leveraging Joe Rogan's, not just his celebrity, but also his authority in the podcasting space, right? I mean, nobody has done that as big as that and as quickly as that recently. So if you're in that world and you care about building a podcast, that's going to get opens every single time.
And subtle point about this one, Joe Rogan's a divisive figure.
Yeah.
And the point about this is that it's not saying here that, I'm endorsing Joe Rogan. People have heard of Joe Rogan, presumably in your audience, and you don't have to like the authority to accept the fact that there's going to be something of value and interest and proven. Like him or not, Joe Rogan has a proven technique that you might want to emulate. There's a line to draw there. I once got a fair amount of blowback when I wrote, I'm almost afraid to admit it now, but I wrote an email once about Charles Manson's persuasive techniques. That I think that crossed the line, but I also got some. There were some important marketing techniques to learn from that, but understand who your audience is who's gonna resonate with your audience, who's not. But authority is authority, and this is a great one. Joe Rogan grew his podcast. So here we go. Oh, the bullets are missing, or the animation is missing here. Numbers. Be specific and use numbers. Dean, talk about that for a minute.
Yeah, so there's a lot of data to back up this concept of using numbers, using data in your headlines and in your copy. And what's I think even more interesting is the data shows, the studies show that using odd numbers for some reason are more memorable and more believable than even numbers. Right.
Yep.
I mean, there's this whole concept. This is maybe a complete tangent, but there's a reason why Walmart never prices their products in round numbers. They never do.
Yep.
There's a reason for that, because it changes buyer behavior and how we perceive price. So there's a lot of data around numbers. So data, numbers, percentages, statistics, use odd numbers. It's more believable, more memorable for whatever reason.
Yep. Absolutely. And are you seeing a trend with that MIT subject line? I have to give credit to my friend Adam Kreitman, who forwarded an email that he received. I wrote an email about that subject line after Adam shared it with me, to say it is a nearly perfect subject line. It has so many elements. It has authority, MIT. It has a clearly stated benefit, cut power bills. It uses a number. It doesn't just say cut your power bill or reduce your power bill a lot. It says 65%, and 65% suggests that this was measured, this was studied, this is a real number, so it's a real claim. Really well done. Next one, Dean.
How this change to your email subject line can increase your open rates by 57%. Seen that one again, right? It's specific. It's a number that sounds believable, sounds real, and people want to learn more.
Yep, precisely. And there we are with the Gary Halbert again. I promised you were going to see it again. Losing looking younger in just 17 days. So the implication, and I've seen the letter that followed this headline, is that you're going to be told that here were the results of the study, of the thing that we did, and indeed 17 days. Here is a classic. This one, David Ogilvy, the great ad man whose agency bears his name, at 60 miles an hour, the loudest noise in this new Rolls Royce comes from the electric clock. You know, the difference between a vague headline and a specific headline can make an enormous difference in response. And so when the car is going this fast, 60 miles an hour, and the noise comes from the clock, and it's it's such a brilliant headline, and that specificity and use of numbers really makes a huge difference.
Well,
I'm going to give you go ahead.
I just want to add one more comment to that particular one, and I love this one for another reason. It puts you in the car.
It sure does.
Right?
Yep.
You can imagine this silent, like, down the street, and all you hear is the electric clock, right? You hear the clock. So it puts you in that situation as a person, and I think that transports you to this place the writer wanted you to be. So it's brilliant. Why don't you take this next one as well, Tom? This one
yeah.
Well.
So the great John Carlton, who's still out there today, if you Google John Carlton golf ads, John Carlton is a copywriter who, when he was really hitting his peak, was doing a lot of ads in the golf space. And some of these ads are absolutely brilliant. All of them are absolutely brilliant. And this headline, I'm not saying do this at home. I'm not saying swipe this formula. Clearly, you couldn't do it as a subject line. On a sales letter, the thing was stacked, I think, 4 levels high. But the reason I shared this headline is it is a headline that is making a very hypey claim. He was a master at pushing the envelope with hype. Real verified products, never lied. It was true, but he always delivered this heightened hype, but he delivered the details that soften the edges of the hype, that make it a little more believable. You know, if it was just, hit you'll hit all your drives straight down the fairway, or add 30 or 50 or 70 yards to your drives, or blah, 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 hype. But this specific detail that's almost circus-like. How does an out of shape 55-year-old golfer, crippled by arthritis, not a number, but a great detail, and 71 pounds overweight, not overweight, not 60 pounds overweight, 71 pounds overweight, still consistently humiliate, great verb, humiliate PGA pros, not beat them, not outdrive them, but humiliate. He's talking to golfers who are testosterone driven, competitive people, and this was targeted at men, not women. humiliate PGA pros in head-to-head matches by hitting every tee shot farther and straighter down the fairway. That headline sold a lot of golf clubs.
That's awesome.
A lot of them. So be specific, use numbers. Now we're on to number 5. We're pressing 25 minutes. We're going to get this thing in. Tease a story. I'm a story guy. We had to get this slide in, right, Dean?
There you go, right? You're
yeah, I'm going to share this one because I wrote it. How a stressed out owner let go and got away. That is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10-word story. Before, stressed out. After, let go and got away. And the how is the answer to the how is the product or service that's being pitched. That was written on behalf of an executive coach who sells, who helps her clients get off the hamster wheel. And it was a story about delegation, how a stressed out owner let go and got away. And it came after a previous blog post that she'd written where the headline was delegate, don't dump. And the article was, here's why delegation is, delegating is very important. Here are tips to delegate. No, how anybody who reads that headline is going to think, anybody she wants to reach, I'm stressed out.
Yep.
I'd like to get away. I want to know this story. And on they read.
Yep.
So
why don't you take the next one, Tom, as well? You drop this one in here.
Yeah, classic advertisement for correspondence school teaching piano by the great John Caples. They laughed when I sat down at the piano, but when I started to play, it's just, I'm waiting for the story. I'm on the edge of my seat. Tell me more. And the story is, I'm the wallflower. Nobody knew that I could do this. I couldn't play the piano 10 weeks ago. I took the correspondence course. I sat down. They were giggling and snickering and laughing. And then I played Schubert's blah, 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 whatever. And I was the hero of the party. Great story. Classic ad. This is probably the most swiped structure. People rip off this format for headlines all over the place.
It draws you in, right? It just draws you in to want to know what's next.
Yeah, story coming.
It's awesome. Yep.
Dean,
suppose this happened on your wedding day. It's a great one. It's like, whoa, what's going on? What happened? So it's the beginning of a story, right? It's the beginning of this sort of epic adventure that you can share with your audience.
Yep. And I think that's, this one.
Yeah.
Go for it.
So how a thirsty, impatient engineer invented a $20 million product. And this is based on,
this story. This is a story
this was actually a client of mine that did invent this $20 million product. So it's like, and Tom actually wordsmithed this a little bit for me, which I really appreciate. And because it paints a bigger picture, right? This thirsty but impatient engineer. Now there's a backstory to that, but that's the story you want to learn about. What made him thirsty and impatient, and then cash this thing in. So I love that one because I relate to the story because I was part of the journey for him. But yeah, it was a great one.
Yep. So there it is. Oops, somehow that slide, I'm going to lose the thing again. I'm going to return to the share. All right, let's do the play from, sorry about that. There we go. All right. So we did it. 25 minutes. I think we made it in 25 minutes. We started a couple of minutes late. That is Dean at the top of the slide. I'm Tom. So my business is Story Power Marketing, coaches, consultants, anybody who's packaging their expertise for sale to serve clients. They're hiring me to power up their creative content and storytelling, because most of them are dishing out the same old boring blah 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 content, and then prospects are tuning out and they get frustrated and stuck. So I teach them how to transform their content from boring to brilliant, how to turn the marketing process from frustrating to fun, and how to convert results from pitiful to profitable. Bottom line in all of that is, if you can create the kind of content that's captivating, interesting, story powered, not just blah, 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 you'll be the one to stand out in your niche, and they'll choose you and hire you. And so the best thing that you can do, if you're interested in learning more, is go to storypowermarketing.com and sign up for my email list. If you're already on my email list, the best thing you can do is tell other people to go sign up.
That's right.
If you're really interested in diving in and learning what we do and the programs we offer, feel free to email me, connect with Tom at storypowermarketing.com, or connect with me on LinkedIn. And I would be more than happy to have a conversation with you about the various programs that we have. Dean, by the way, we're going to get to Q&A in just a moment, but
yeah, we will. We'll allow some time for Q&A. So my business is Vantage Group. We work with B2B professional services and consultants and coaches, and really help them identify the revenue roadblocks in their business. What's preventing them from growing seamlessly and scaling their business? So we help them really identify those things and allow them to grow their business in less time, with less stress, and ultimately with more predictability. So if you're confused or stuck, we can help. We can get you past that. And the best way to connect with me is, you can see my website there. It's dean@thevantagegrp.com is my email, or even better, say hi on LinkedIn. Go connect with me on LinkedIn. I post a bunch of stuff out there. I'm always happy to chat and see how we can support each other.
Terrific. Yep. So Steve Kelly, can you put in the chat whether you're able to hear us? Because I just now am seeing your chat that says you couldn't hear us. Well, if you can't hear me, you're not, that's not going to
unless you can agree, right?
All right, Steve dialed in.
Steve
Thank
dialed
you.
in. Good.
Glad to know it. So we would be happy now. We've mapped an hour for the meeting. The content is delivered. We'd be happy to spend the next half hour with you answering any questions you have. By the way, we gave you sort of the 5 biggies as far as primary tips for headline creation and subject line creation. What we didn't talk about are countless other formulas. And if you have questions about other ideas or other things you've seen, bring them on. What we also didn't talk about is some of the subtle but important differences between headlines for advertisements, sales letters, so on and so forth, versus subject lines. Each has, you know, these things. Some of them were sales letters. Some of them were emails. We can talk about that distinction with emails and subject lines. So go ahead and raise your hand or unmute and just chime in. The group is small enough now that we'd be happy to just talk to you. It looks like we have a couple of robots here and really only 5 people left in the room. So bring it on. Happy to hear anybody's questions. Oh, come now. You've got 2 marketing masters. Yeah, bring it on, Amy. Thank you.
So what I thought was interesting too is that there was different lengths of these headlines. Some were quite short and then some were really long. So I guess that's fair game when you write good headlines. You can alternate depending upon, or what would you say about that?
I will chime in first, and I will note that the real estate is more limited in an email subject line than it is elsewhere. And so when you see that ridiculously long John Carlton headline, that's on a print sales letter, and literally gets stacked over 4, maybe 5 lines, you know, and he can get away with that. That never, ever could be a subject line. Right. That said, if you go and Google ideal subject line length, you're going to hear, actually, if you go to storypowermarketing.com and Google subject line length or subject line, and not Google, but search on my site, you'll find a post that I did not that long ago on this subject. One person will tell you it needs to be this length, another person will give you a number twice as long, and it's just a bunch of competing nonsense data. And if you write a subject line that has some of the qualities, it begins with the word how or why, and in the first few words, it sparks some curiosity and so forth. It can be a little longer than you might think. The other thing I want to say about subject line and headlines, which is kind of unselling the whole purpose of this, headlines and subject lines are critical. But the number one reason people open your email is not your subject line, it's the from name. And what I mean by that is that if you establish that the content that you're sending is valuable, entertaining, relevant, not the same old boring blah, blah, blah stuff, people will see your name on the from line and they'll open it regardless of what you have in the subject line. And that's the place that you want to be in your content. Not true. First of all, rarely on a sales letter does it show up as, it's a different thing in sales letters and headlines, but subject lines are important. Take notes, put this all to work for you. But what you also want to make sure you do is that you deliver on the promise of I'm going to entertain you and provide interesting and valuable content to you moving forward. And the from name becomes a really valuable and important piece. Dean, your thoughts on length?
You're right on. And I think it's all about the medium, right? So social media, if you take LinkedIn, for example, you create a post in LinkedIn and you'll see the first 2 lines before you have to click the little more, and it drops down and you can see the rest. So use that as your headline real estate, right? You've got more length opportunity, you've got more characters that you can use. But if I don't read that first line or so and feel like it's a hook, I'm not going to click more and read the rest of it. So whether it's getting an open in an email or a click through on a social post, use the same methodologies we described, but just keep the medium in mind, right? You've got more real estate on social versus email.
Yep. Great point. Steve Kelly, I'm so glad to see you.
Hey, good to see you too also. Thanks for putting this on.
Yeah, happy to. What do you got?
I have a question. Do you think these techniques you're mentioning also apply to the title and subtitle of a book?
I do. Yeah, I do indeed. Although titling books is a slightly different art and craft, but the core notions of curiosity and especially subtitling a book. So all of the principles that we talked about are really important in the subtitle of a book. A subtitle of a book will often be how to blah 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 or why da 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 da. The main title, much more concise, often 2 words, 1 word, 3 words, whatever it may be. So you want to keep these principles in mind, but it's a slightly different art. And by the way, Dean and I are both friends with a lot of people who are very talented in the book publishing business. And I think it's likely that a future 5 and 25 is going to get to tips regarding books. And this is a little bit of a teaser and a spoiler, but I think Dean and I are considering the idea of into 2023, as we keep this thing going, maybe having guests, tipsters join us. So
specialists.
If we do, we'll have a book person on, Steve, and you'll get the notice about it. You can join and re-ask that question then. Are you working on a book?
I am. I'm probably about 3 weeks from completing a yoga book. and
Oh, wow.
I'm titling it Yoga Revisited because I'm trying to get my readers back into yoga that have convinced themselves they don't have any time or don't want to participate in a class,
Yeah.
those
Yeah.
types of things.
I like it. So Yoga Revisited, I think, is a great title. Think about these principles for your subtitle.
Yeah.
Thank you. Mhm.
Yep.
Yep. Excellent.
Hi, Mary.
And how are you?
Very good.
Always good to have a reminder about how important headlines are,
Yeah.
because we all need them all the time. And
Mhm.
Oftentimes we forget that if you don't get them in the headline, they're not reading anything else.
True. With the from name or the headline, but you're right. Yeah. So any questions or just the thumbs up?
Just thumbs up.
Ah, thank you.
That's
Thank you
awesome.
for that. All right. I see you, Mark Metz, hiding behind your lovely picture. You got anything back there behind the curtain, Mark? Don't mean to call him out, but
But you're gonna
still
anyway.
here, hopefully listening.
Isn't it great? All our note takers show up with us.
All right, yeah.
Yes, indeed.
RJ seems to have left hers behind.
So while we have you, Dean and I are intending to do 5 and 25s every second week, or at least twice a month.
Yep.
We have not planned all of our topics. We have a nice list of topics we're considering, but what's on your mind? What are questions that you have, marketing wise, business building wise, product development wise, whatever it could be? What's on your mind? What would you like us to cover?
Well, for me, it would be all about fastest path to paying clients. Like what is the secret to getting people to actually put their hand up and say, I'm interested enough to have a conversation and see what you can do for me.
Mhm.
And then we can talk about some payment going on because that's kind of where I'm at and becoming an issue with my business.
Yep. That's a good one. We will put that under consideration for sure. Steve, Amy, any thoughts? Mark?
I'm in sales, so I'm messaging, emailing executives who are bombarded,
Mhm.
and getting them to open my email and react on it is definitely key, and actually even more challenging than ever. So yeah, whether it's through LinkedIn or through a direct email, they're definitely not recognizing my name or my company name, but that headline, that subject, which Tom, you've said ever since the days of Message Buzz, it's so critical.
Yeah, it is. Steve and I have known each other for a long time, probably longer than we'd like to admit. But yeah, you're right, Steve. And I guess my question is, how often are you emailing?
Wow, that's probably 20 emails a day. And
so, yeah, and so what you're talking about there is cold email, right? You're talking about reaching into C-suites where they don't necessarily know you.
Yeah, I've researched their needs and how we could potentially help them. So I am making it relevant, but everybody is. It's I've got to stand out somehow. That's really critical.
That was what I was going to say too, is how to stand out in such a saturated market. I mean, I thought 14 years ago when I got certified as a coach, it was busy, but now it's just crazy.
Yeah. I think there's a number of topics that we could potentially work on here. A multi-channel approach is one, right? So standing out using one channel, single channel approach is really hard, right? So going after these prospects from lots of different angles is one way, a topic. Another is how to create authority around your personal brand so that when they see your stuff, they've already heard or they're familiar with you, right? So that there's some channels around that. So I think there's a number of topics we could probably lean into.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. And Steve, how are you getting prospects, these executives you're targeting, to respond in some number? Are you getting them onto a list where you're emailing regularly, or are you getting connected to them on LinkedIn? What or are most of them sort of one and done, reach in, they either respond or they don't?
Well, I'm using Google Alerts or some of these investor resources that trigger, international expansion. And so I'm familiar with their intentions, but there's so many ways to skin that cat. That really, I think, depends a lot on whether they're reaching back to me. I do follow up with a call, but that's almost next to impossible to get those guys to pick up.
Yeah.
So I put them into a cadence, but that's pretty sparse as to when we have a case study or a ebook or something like that come out that is going to maybe interest them again. But it's probably not the volume you're probably thinking of.
Yep.
What about using video in an email as opposed to the written word? Do you guys talk about that at all? Or I'm curious if you've tried that, Steve, just to stand out and be different.
Yeah, I haven't, but I just dread that.
Oh, okay.
It's against my soul.
Oh, dear.
Actually,
Okay, well, that doesn't sound
do
good.
a video. How about
Yeah,
audio? I mean,
feel
you
like
leave
Audio, yeah.
that's happening
Yeah.
more and more.
Yep. So, yeah, if not video, then audio. And I have some thoughts for you. Steve, and I'm sure Dean does as well. And if you want to reach out to us, we'd be happy to have a conversation with you about it.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah, appreciate it.
Okay. Mary, Amy, anything else? Dean, any questions for me? Let me think if I have a question for you. I know where to find you.
You do. So I have a question for the folks on the lines. Steve, you're in sales by the sounds of it. I mean, if we're business owners, we're in sales, right? I mean, that's just the nature of the beast. And I wonder if a topic around sales and selling would be of interest. This whole concept of consultative selling has been around a long, long time, and it can be kind of manipulative and self-serving. And we're talking more and more about this concept of collaborative selling versus consultative selling. So topics like that are things that we can talk about as well. And if that would be of interest, Mary, you mentioned, getting people interested and then giving you money, right? That's a sales conversation many times. So if that's of interest, let us know. We can weave that into our topic list as well.
Yeah, I'd definitely be interested in that. I especially am interested because I'm noticing how many people are friend requesting either on LinkedIn or Facebook and then private messaging and trying to sell me something before I even know who the heck they are. And I just find that so offensive.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I just block them. I'm just like,
Connect and pitch is the worst. And it's a pandemic.
It is.
It's the next pandemic,
Terrible.
but it's on LinkedIn.
Yes. Indeed. So yes, some good collaborative sales techniques would be wonderful.
Okay, great.